Oh, excellent. Okay. So, first of all, Dr. Khan, um, I want to first of all start off by thanking the American Muslim today to help us coordinate this talk. Myths and facts and myths. Let me say first of all that this is a talk that's going to be initially in English, and then it's going to follow by Urdu. Urdu. Just one sec. On behalf of American Muslim Today, they also have another upcoming event. That's Faith in the Media. This is an online event that's going to be held February the 21st. That's Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. So if you get an opportunity, please do join us for that event. First of all, I want to start off by introducing myself. I am a pulmonologist. I work at Baylor Scott and White, Waxahachie. I'm the ICU director. Also, we have in our panel Dr. Saima Niaz. She's a consultant psychiatrist. She is at Camden Islington NHS Foundation Trust. And she also works as part of the outreach team and the recovery and rehab team. So thank you very much for coming on board, Dr. Saima Niaz. Dr. Saima Niaz, and then there is Dr. Wahid Hussain. Dr. Wahid Hussain is a GP partner at Clarendon Medical Center, NHS UK. He is also the chair of the City Health GP Federation. Thank you very much for coming, Dr. Wahid from UK as well. Then we have Dr. Mahesh Korapalli. Dr. Mahesh Korapalli is an ID specialist at Methodist Hospital. This is in Dallas. He's also the chief advisor and professor emeritus at Vidya Medical College Research Center, Bangalore. Welcome, Dr. Mahesh Korapalli. Dr. Iftikhar Chaudhry is also a consultant rheumatologist. He's currently working at Albert. He's also currently working at Baylor Scott and White. He's got a very impressive resume and has done his fellowship and internship at Albert Einstein. Dr. Iftikhar Chaudhry, welcome as well. Okay, can we unmute them? I'm just going to do a brief overview, just present quickly an overview about the COVID vaccination. This is going to follow by a discussion and question answer session, which we're going to do in English, and that is going to follow by a question answer session and a short presentation in Urdu as well. So what are the current myths that are out there? These are the following. Does the vaccination alter our DNA? Is there a chip implanted in us? How was it created so quickly? And is the vaccine halal? Let me start off by saying that this technology, the messenger RNA technology, was first introduced way back in 1999. This is a paper which was published in the review Drug Discovery in 98, which actually described in detail about the role of messenger RNA and what was on the way. So a new technology and a new era in vaccinology. Messenger RNA does not enter the cell nucleus, does not alter the DNA. It does enter the body. It's not a live virus, and it does not carry the risk to in vaccinated persons, that it does not cause COVID-19 infection. Yes, it's a new technology, but it has been studied quite extensively in influenza, Zika, rabies, and cytomegalovirus. This is basically a cartoon about the vaccination. The vaccine creates a spike protein when it enters the body. This is encoded. It enters the cell, and then it mounts a COVID spike protein trimer and induces a response and mounts antibodies against the virus. The antigen is presented to the body. Note, it does not enter the nucleus. It does not enter or alter the DNA physiology. So neither are affected. Just briefly, COVID-19 vaccine, there are about 6 and 3 more on the way. The Moderna and the Pfizer ones are the common ones, the top 2 in USA, whereas the others are in different parts of the world. Oxford AstraZeneca has the UK version, and then the Russian version and the Chinese version are out there as well. Now, Pfizer was one of the leading vaccinations that were formed. Note that the vaccination itself has a lipid nanoparticle in it, a lipid. And the vaccine that's induced in the body causes antibody reactions. This was authorized to be used in the US. These are the various breakdowns of the vaccination itself. There's a lipid part of the vaccine. There are acids. There is an acid stabilizer, and there's some sugar and salts with it. Note, there is no other component other than the ones that you're seeing on the screen. I'm going to briefly skim through these different parts. The doses, as you all know, there is 21 days and 28 days. Also, these medications have been approved in the US, and then the other ones are also been approved in different parts of the world as well. This is the data from the trials that were conducted. There were about 44,000 patients and 25,000 patients in each of the study arms. Note that the medications have been used in hepatitis and in other medical conditions. The medication is very efficiency is about 95% in combating the progression of COVID-19. On your right side, you see the side effects. There are other components that we will address and look at, but this just shows that there are different aspects and many aspects that have been looked at and studied. I want to end by saying that this was an overview, and we're going to start looking and taking some questions. If you have any questions, please do put in your chat box and you can raise a question, and then we will be answering the questions one at a time. Please raise your hands if you have one. So, Sarah, can I go back to the main screen?
Yes, Haris, the main screen.
And stop sharing. Just going to stop sharing 1 second. All right, let's look at the questions.
Screen पे देखें.
So I'm going to take first question from the recent developments from Germany suggesting they have not approved patients over the age of 65. Any backing behind this? This is Oxford. I'll start off with Dr. Waheed. Recent development from Germany suggesting they have not approved medication, the vaccination above the age of 65. Any data that is backing that? Dr. Waheed?
Unmute yourself. Don't unmute.
No, yeah, you have to.
You need to unmute me.
You're unmuted.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, yeah. So I think with Germany, I mean, obviously, some people understand there is a political situation at the moment with the distribution of vaccines, and currently at the moment, I think the European Union is in a dispute with the Oxford and the AstraZeneca company. So in terms of the data itself, I think that MHRA in the United Kingdom have given us an assurance from a regulatory perspective that it is safe for over 65s and the data is good. Germany has probably just identified the fact that there's only 660 patients or so above the age of 65 that have been in the trial. But most people probably think, I think from the scientific community, think that it's slightly politically motivated at the moment. If you reduce the demand of the vaccine, then you can actually pacify your community. And the second thing also is that in Germany, they've got far more of the Pfizer available. And Pfizer has shown that it has 94% efficacy, but has also the logistical issue associated with Pfizer, and also in terms of the fact that you have to use the Pfizer vaccine within 72 hours. So I think there's a little bit political here, but I think what we can say from the United Kingdom that it is safe and to use, and the clinical data supports that. The problem we have now is that some of our over 65s in the United Kingdom are saying, well, why is Germany saying this as well? So that's a little bit of a problem that we need to just address.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, question number 2 for Dr. Chowdhury. What's the effects of the vaccination on diabetic patients?
So hi to everyone. So there is no contraindication to use it in diabetics. Actually, as a matter of fact, if you look at the list of patients who are high risk for having COVID-19 consequences and complications, as a matter of fact, diabetic patients should be to the forefront to be getting the vaccine. And actually, if you look at the phase 1 CDC recommendation, they're categorized under 1C. So diabetic patients and all other patients should be able to get it.
Excellent. Thanks, Dr. Chowdhury. Our third question is, there is in UK, we are giving second dose of Pfizer vaccination after 3 months. As you all know, that the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccination is, the initial guidelines that came up is at 21 and 28 days. Dr. Korapalli, any data on that? Are you aware? What would be the significance of getting the vaccination at 3 months versus, and this is a question not only for the UK audience, but the US audience, there has been some problems with getting the vaccination. 3 months versus 1 month.
It's all related to a logistic issue. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's all logistics. Some people have it available, they take it. Most of the people, they just get 1 dose and they're scrambling to get the second dose because it's not available or out of stock or what have you. But the studies are showing that just getting 1 shot itself, you get more than 50% of antibodies immunity, and that does give you certain protection against the virus. And getting the second shot is kind of a booster shot, just pushing you over that hill that you're slowly trying to climb. It's like those are Joe Lagake I saw one time, you just push it over. So that's the second dose you can get.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it at 21 days as per the recommendation. But my observation is that even if you get it after 1, 2 months, 3 months, it's still okay. So it just kind of slowly weans off and getting the second booster shot whenever you can get it is good.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Korapalli. 2 questions next for Dr. Simon Yaz. One lady is asking, I'm already taking depression medication. If I take the vaccine, would my depression get worse? And the second question is, what psych issues are patients reporting with the vaccination, and how long do they last for? So 2 questions. One about specifically depression. She's a lady and she's saying that she's already depressed taking medication. Can she take the vaccination? And the second part is what psych issues are patient reporting and how long do they last for? Dr. Niaz.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Simon Niaz from London, and I just saw also someone was asking about disclaimer. I'm not sure if you are asking about mine or as a journal. So just to say that I haven't taken any grant or any funding or any money for this presentation, and it's just for public awareness. I'm doing this session, and I haven't taken anything from any pharmaceutical company also. So that's the disclaimer for myself. And regarding vaccine in depression, it's completely safe. Just like people with other comorbidities, they have some physical health issues or mental illnesses. They are in the cohort high risk population. Recently, earlier this week in UK, Royal College of Psychiatrists, we had a webinar, and there were serious concerns that people with severe mental illness, they should be in cohort, should be higher up in the list to receive this vaccination because they are more at risk of getting COVID due to various other factors. So there is no contraindication to receive this vaccination. And also, other question, what I understand is about long-term effects of vaccination on mental health.
Yes, psychiatric and other reported.
Yeah, so what, because this vaccination is new, we are aware of its short-term effects. We will be doing more about medium-term effects soon, and also long-term effects we are not aware of, but we have tried many vaccines in the past. And as Dr. Amir said, it's technology has advanced, and we have more advancement in every field. So that's why we are using this vaccination, and to make everyone aware, in UK, more than 7 million people have been given vaccination doses. So we haven't encountered here in UK any serious side effect. That's quite reassuring. And also, just to, it's not causing any serious effect on mental health, but I want to just share with people that if a person is going to get coronavirus, COVID illness, it can have research recently just published with both USA and UK collaboration. They are doing a research looking at the medical records of patients.
Okay.
That 1 in 8 people who have COVID-19 are diagnosed with their first psychiatric or neurological illness. Though it's not directly related to COVID-19, so it's better to get vaccinated and prevent to have coronavirus.
Excellent. Okay, so no reported psychiatric worsening with the vaccine, and even if you're depressed, you're on medication, you can continue to take your medication, and there's no contraindication for it. So in a nutshell, next, there's actually a lot of questions coming in different formats, so I'm gonna maybe skim through a few. The next one for Dr. Korapalli again. Can someone still get COVID after the person has been vaccinated? Korapalli.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, the vaccine is not 100% protective shield. It's not something, okay, I take the vaccine, I get this invisible shield, virus cannot penetrate. No. All the vaccine does is it gets into your body and then it creates antibodies. That means the soldier cells that can kill the virus, and now you're ready for it. And the virus attacks your body, the soldiers are ready to attack it. So you might still get the virus, and you might still get some mild symptoms. Before the vaccine, you get severe symptoms, but now you get just mild symptoms, like a little low temperature, a little cough, a little sneezing, a little fever, nothing extreme like before. So yes, you can still get the coronavirus, and yes, you can still pass it on to other people.
Excellent.
So just because you get a vaccine, it doesn't give you a green card to go around, so you still have to wear a mask.
Absolutely. So you're saying if you had it, this prevents the further aggression of the disease. The severity gets less, but you can still get COVID. Next question for Dr. Chowdhury. Why do I need to get 2 doses of the vaccine? Dr. Chowdhury.
So
Yes, so the reason for doing 2 doses is to get a booster dose. So once you get the vaccine is an mRNA vaccine. It goes once you get in the muscle, it goes into the myocyte. In the myocyte, it goes to the cytoplasm, as Dr. Khan mentioned. It doesn't penetrate through the nucleus. As compared to the older vaccines, they used to go through the nucleus, but the new vaccine, this is a very swift and very clean technology that mRNA technology is. And then it will go to ribosomes, and from ribosomes, it will form the protein, and the protein will go to the endoplasmic cell, goes to the lymphocytes, or endoplasmic cells, and then go to the they will go to the lymph nodes, where they will form the memory T cells, B cells, and T cell mediated response will be mounted. So basically, the reason for having a second dose is it's going to reinforce that response, which is going to produce memory cells. So we know this immunity is not lifelong immunity. It might last for 6 months to a year, and might need a booster dose after a year. So you will need the second dose to make sure that you have a lasting effect which can last you for maybe 6 months to a year.
Excellent. So 2 doses because you need booster, your immunity, your autoimmune antibodies recognize it, and that's why you need. Excellent response. Next question, Dr. Waheed. If I had COVID-19, should I get vaccinated? Please. If I had COVID-19, should I get vaccinated? And I'm going to add, if I do get vaccinated, when? What's the UK guidelines? Is there any? Oh, so let me just see. Dr. Waheed, unmute yourself. Excellent.
Yeah, sorry. If you have coronavirus, then the guidance is that you should wait 28 days from diagnosis. So it's important for you to have that 28 days period. What we do in vaccination centers is we screen those patients as well. So we have an understanding of those patients that do have a diagnosis of COVID, and to make sure that they don't actually slip through the net and have a vaccine. And the fact that you've had COVID doesn't necessarily mean that you don't necessarily need to have the vaccine. There will obviously be some immunity that you've generated as a result of being exposed to COVID. But even then, it's advisable for you to have the vaccine 28 days post diagnosis of those symptoms.
Excellent. Next question for Dr. Simon Niaz. Can you take the vaccine if you're pregnant?
There are some questions in UK they have asked. It depends upon the risk of a pregnant lady, or like comorbidity, it will be risk-benefit ratio. They need to go to their GP or their doctor to discuss the risks and what will be the benefits. And I believe a GP from this panel will be more appropriate to give this advice. So they will be, what I understand, there are no such any specific contraindications, but it needs to be on case-by-case basis and in discussion with their doctors. It
Excellent.
won't be offered automatically.
Excellent.
Can I just add one more thing to Dr. Khan?
Sure.
So in US, with the CDC guidelines of the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and also Fetal Maternal Society, they all recommend to get the vaccination even if the patient is pregnant. However, in UK, as Dr. Niaz said, that and the WHO recommends that you do the risk and benefit ratio, and then you decide if you want to go forward with this amount.
Perfect. Dr. Waheed, you want to?
Dr. Pauly again. I want to add something to this. Remember this, the Pfizer and the Moderna are mRNA vaccines. In general, these are very safe for pregnant women. The only discussion comes in place is if you're talking about a live inactivated vaccine.
Absolutely.
That's when the issue of pregnancy and immunosuppression and all that comes in.
Absolutely.
But as far as mRNA vaccines are concerned, they are non-viral particles. There is no virus in them. It's a synthetic stuff, so it's pretty safe.
I'll take the UK version from Dr. Waheed. Dr. Waheed, you need to unmute yourself again. And then Dr. Kodavali and Dr. Chaudhary mentioned, the US version, because the mechanism of action is a little bit different from what the vaccine is in the UK versus what we have in the US. Dr. Wahid, could you answer the UK version of what is being introduced, and is it?
So just quickly on the last question, at the moment we're not actually vaccinating. I know at the vaccination centres we're not vaccinating pregnant women at the moment. So I'm sure it's probably because it's just so new and everybody's just so risk averse at the moment. In the same way, we've got quite stringent measures for those people that have got allergic reactions and those things. So in the United Kingdom at the moment, we started off in December for our first dose of vaccination. We started off with the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, and some of the patients had their second dose in January. And then in January, shortly after, the government then advised, national guidance was then to move it from 21 days to 12 weeks. And subsequently, we've now vaccinating using the Oxford AstraZeneca one, but we do have some limited supply of the Pfizer one at the moment. So those probably are the two at the moment. I know that I think the Moderna one has just been going through the licensing process and has been approved. So we may well see the Moderna one probably in April sometime. And I think the Novavax is going through a licensing process as well, because it's just showing some good efficacy recently. And in Bradford, we've been involved in that vaccination trial as well.
Excellent, absolutely. I think there is a little bit of a difference between what we're doing in the UK versus the US, and that's because of the vaccine we're using. Like Dr. Chaudhary and Dr. Kodavali pointed out, the technique dictates what if the patient gets vaccine, and the underlying comorbidities is also very important. Two very important questions I'm going to ask next to the panel as we go forward. But I just want to make this little announcement. In about next 5 minutes, we'll start taking questions in Urdu. I thought we had sufficient time. So if you want to raise your hand that's what my team is telling me here. If you want to raise your hand in the chat box, we will unmute you, and then you can ask your questions in Urdu, and then we'll answer that. So just give us 5 more minutes, because we want to ask two very important questions to the panel. And that's been coming up left, right, center. First question, I'm going to give it to Dr. Chaudhary. Is the vaccine, the US version of the vaccine, haram or halal? That's coming up. What, and if it's haram, why so? If it's halal, which one? And then I'll ask Dr. Wahid the same question about the haram halal vaccines that are in UK. Dr. Chaudhary, what's your thoughts?
First of all, disclaimer is I'm not a Muslim.
That's very important. I wanted to add to Dr. Niaz. None of us, we all want to disclaim that this talk is purely for supporting American Muslim today. None of us have taken any money, and all of us by heart want the welfare of our people and the community in general. So please do understand that this is not a talk by the drug company. Dr. Chaudhary.
Yeah, so with that disclaimer, by all means, it's halal. In the world, we have lost 2.2 million people to COVID-19, and in US, we lost 437,000 Americans to COVID. So, as the Quran says, if you save one life, it's as good as you have saved the whole humanity. If you kill one, it's as bad as you have killed the whole humanity. So this vaccine saves life. There are some people who are concerned about vaccination, if they need to get vaccinated or not. I want to tell you two things. Don't take COVID-19 disease as if it's influenza. Don't take it like that. Don't think that you're going to be sick for a couple of weeks and you'll be fine. We lost so many lives to COVID-19. We need to take it seriously. Don't think it's just flu and then you'll be all right and, it's all gone. No. So take all the precautions you can. Make sure you watch the W's and, watch your distance and wash your hands and wear your mask. Do all the things that you can. And saving your own life, and more so, if you have a loved one, saving your loved one's life, it's important to take the vaccine. So with that, notion is that it's perfectly halal. Inshallah, there's nothing haram that I have seen in it, as Dr. Khan have shown the composites. There's no pork I saw in there, and there was nothing else in the composition. So by all means, take this, and I'm sure the question might come up later, and we discuss that, on medications. But for the most part, everybody can take it.
Excellent. Dr. Wahid, the UK version of the medication. Is there any haram components in it that you see? We're obviously not scholars, but is there any halal haram components in them that the community should worry about? And if there are, what would be an argument for and against?
The short answer to that is no. There's absolutely no haram components in the vaccines that we've seen at the moment. So Pfizer definitely not. I think the British Islamic Muslim Association passed a ruling on that, so we know that absolutely has no animal or human ingredients within it. AstraZeneca, I think the Oxford one does not either. My understanding is that from their processing point of view, they've filtered out all animal and human any ingredients in there, so that's absolutely no. And I think even if it did, then I think most scholars from a point of view of protection of the individual, protection of the families, protection of the community, have declared it that it's permissible to use. So I think the short answer is that it doesn't have any haram components in there. And the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, had a consultation with a number of Islamic scholars back in, I think, 1998, and they passed a ruling on these areas like medicines that may contain animal ingredients, and they said it was permissible. So I think our members of our community and the Muslim community need to think about this, because if you actually look at it from a deprivation point of view, 50% of our Muslim community is probably the most deprived, and more, they have a higher prevalence rate of diabetes, heart disease, so they're more at risk to COVID compared to everybody else as well. They are dying more of COVID compared to everybody else. So I think it's important for them to consider that. So yeah, it's absolutely safe, and we should
It's a go ahead. Maulana Wahid has said go ahead as well, so that's good.
My disclaimers, I'm not either.
Excellent. A quick question with Dr. Niaz, and then we're going to go to the next question. This question was about, from Maham, hey, do we need to take this vaccine yearly? Is this going to be a yearly thing? Any thoughts?
This question is for me.
Yes.
I believe, because I'm a psychiatrist, I saw a question on capacity. I can answer that.
Why don't you please answer that question, and I'll flip it.
I'll answer that when you guys don't mind.
We'll come to that in a minute, Dr. Purbali. Go on, Dr. Niaz, answer the question on the one that was asked, and then we'll come to the yearly one.
Okay, so someone is asking about capacity. That's very important for UK. I'm not sure about USA, that if a person lacks capacity, whether they can be given this COVID vaccine. So in my psychiatrist webinar earlier this week gone, they have said that those who have capacity, they can decide whether they want to have vaccine or not. It's just like anyone they have choice. It's human right. They are basic human rights. No one is going to force vaccine on anyone in UK. And other is those who lack capacity, like dementia, it's clearly on their website, like we do capacity assessment, it's their invested trust, risks and benefit involving significant others, and second step will be code of protection, and also looking for lasting power of attorney. All those steps, and there is guidelines also available now, so that can be addressed.
Beautifully answered, very well done. Before we go on to answer the yearly, I want to ask the next question, which has come up a few times through different social media sources, is about whether it causes infertility. How does it affect the sperms and the ovaries? That is part A of the question. Kodapali first, please. Does it affect the sperms? So is there any studies, or how would you back your recommendation?
Well, right now there are no studies out there. I think people are busy trying to save lives rather than go into these kind of details at this point in time. I don't think there's any randomized trial on that particular area. But common sense tells you that, this is, I don't know why these kind of questions are coming up, because if you guys have taken influenza vaccine in the past, how many people who took influenza vaccine became sterile? They like that. Nobody
Absolutely.
did. This is another corona vaccine. And furthermore, so far the vaccines that come out are mRNA vaccines. The synthetic vaccine, there is no viral compound.
Perfect.
So if every time you get a common cold, you become sterile, it doesn't work like that. So that doesn't apply to this vaccine at all.
Dr. Wahid,
I can,
Dr. Wahid,
okay.
sorry, go on, Dr. Niaz, you want to back?
Oh, I was just going to add, because we are circulating this leaflet in UK by saying that the Royal College of Obs and Gynae and the Royal College of Midwives, they have said that there's no evidence to worry about the future fertility as the vaccines, they can't affect DNA, but yes, I think AGP would be better.
Perfect.
The problem here is it's not enough time. You know, we had a coronavirus in a year, and we were all dying left and right and hoping to get a vaccine. Now they have a vaccine, and we come up with all these questions that are kind of moot point, and it just doesn't make sense. You know, hey, you want it or not? You want to live or not? It's as simple as that.
Mahesh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think it's part of it is looking at the data, the Zika vaccine data, the vaccines that have been there before. People are concerned, so we're going to try to address them as much as we can.
But it's too early.
Too early. Too early. And based on the previous vaccination, there is no reported data on it. Dr. Wahid, the UK version. Sorry, Dr. Wahid.
Yeah.
Let me go to Dr. Wahid and then I go to Dr. Chowdhury.
I think, to be fair, from what we've seen so far, in the thousands of vaccines that we've done in our vaccination center, you probably get a few people coming in with a little bit of pain, a bit of swelling at the site of the injection, a little bit of lightheadedness, myalgia, muscular aches and pains. There's no evidence at this moment in time to suggest that there's going to be fertility studies, and you probably would need to do a long-term prospective study. But it's like anything, you can just make something up. You can just say the vaccine causes brain hemorrhage and prove that it doesn't. So, it's just, I think it's just sheer stupidity and just lots of myths going around. So I think sometimes we could just say bad science, doesn't make sense, no evidence to suggest that, and just move on. And as our esteemed colleagues have said, is that the most important thing, this is a life-saving intervention, and just focus on that.
Dr. Chowdhury, please.
Yeah, just want to add, I came across a paper that was published by American Society of Reproductive Medicine, and they were saying that there was a myth or there's some, anti-selectin 1 antibody, and, there was just like, just a hoax which has been spread out about infertility, and they're saying is that, again, this is American College of Reproductive Medicine, is that, there's no reality towards, placenta issue when the females become pregnant, or there any issue with the fertility, and some of the volunteers, initially when they did the trials, they excluded the volunteers who were pregnant, but these volunteers became pregnant while they were under the trials, and they didn't see any spike of any miscarriages or any spike of having, stillbirths or any issues with the fertility. So they are, they are saying that it's very clean from that perspective.
Okay. We're going to take answer one more question, then open the mic. If anyone has a question, please just raise your hand in the chat in Urdu. If there are no questions in Urdu, we will keep taking the English questions because we have quite a list of the English questions, but we would love to answer questions in Urdu if someone has one. Question? Yes.
Regarding the yearly vaccine, you haven't tested. I don't know if you do that.
Yes, we're going to.
But the quick answer to that is yes. Remember, this is a coronavirus. Corona has several viruses, and even influenza is a coronavirus. So just like how we take a vaccine for influenza going forward, most likely we will be taking a COVID vaccine. I don't know if they're going to mix it with influenza or it's going to be two separate vaccines. We'll get predictions on that, but yes, it will be here today.
Excellent. And just to add to that, there is reported variants coming along, so make it a more better vaccine. There are also going to be changes. The temperature right now where they're storing it, it's getting better and better. It's -70, -20. So there's going to be adjustments in the vaccine. One more question before, and this one is going to go to Dr. Wahid and Dr. Chowdhury from UK-US perspective. How do we minimize allergic reactions? How is the current protocol in UK and US, pardon me? How do we watch for allergic reactions and full dose versus splitting the dose up? Just briefly, I know this is a little lengthy question, but it's we just want to touch base on that. People have been concerned about how can they get, what happens if they don't get their second vaccine, and what are the allergic reactions? How do they minimize their allergic reactions to it? Dr. Waheed first, please. Dr. Waheed, you need to unmute again. I think yours is auto.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I think in terms of the contraindication, so the absolute contraindication for us is if you've had a severe anaphylactic reaction in the past, then we will not be giving you the vaccine. I suppose in the Pfizer cases, there were two, three incidences where somebody had a severe allergic reaction. As a result of that, we became a tiny bit more cautious initially. But I probably would say that a mild allergy of sorts, paracetamol allergy or penicillin allergy, we wouldn't necessarily say you can't have the vaccine. It would be more, it needs to be more demonstrable that you've had a severe anaphylactic reaction in the past, and therefore we would then say, yeah, you can't have it. It is also a conversation with the patient as well, because obviously, as discussed earlier, you really need the consent of the patient in those situations, and usually in the vaccination centre, there's always a clinician there to have those discussions, those grey areas. But my recommendation is to have it, unless you've had an anaphylactic reaction.
Perfect. Can I just interrupt? Because if some of the panelists are saying it's hard to write in Urdu. So if you want to ask a question and you want to ask us to explain it in Urdu, we will be happy to do that. Let's ask the next questions a little bit. Dr. Chowdhury, the same question and just in Urdu, if you don't mind. किस तरह से हम अगर हम वैक्सीन लेते हैं तो किस तरह से उसके साइड इफेक्ट्स को मिनिमाइज कर सकते हैं? डॉक्टर चौधरी, आप जरा बताना चाहें.
हमें दो चीजों को डिफरेंशिएट करना है इसमें. पहले तो the first thing is that there's something called anaphylaxis, as Dr. Waheed was saying. Dr. Waheed ने बताया anaphylaxis जिसमें swelling होती है, hives होते हैं, breathing difficulty होती है, wheezing होती है, respiratory arrest हो सकता है. That is very, very minor. Out of like 2.2 million, cases का study उन्होंने 2.2 million लोगों को study किया. उसमें सिर्फ 22 or 23 को anaphylaxis reaction हुआ. वो भी no deaths occurred. Nobody died from the vaccine in all these trials. So that's a very good thing. हम कंफ्यूज करते हैं उसको वैक्सीन के रिएक्शन से. मतलब वैक्सीन का मतलब है कि जब वैक्सीन लगाते हैं तो मसल बिकम सोर, मसल सोर हो जाता है और फिर वो कुछ फीवर हो जाता है और कुछ उसमें बॉडी एक्स होते हैं, तो उसमें वो कंफ्यूज करते हैं. तो this is actually having body aches होना is a good sign that your immune system is acting up. It's forming antibodies और ये आपका जो है वो बॉडी प्रिपेयर, आपकी बॉडी तैयार हो रही है उसके लिए. तो उसके लिए बेस्ट थिंग इज टू टेक Tylenol. आप Tylenol लें अराउंड अ क्लॉक, और ये जो रिएक्शन है इट लास्ट 24 to 48 आवर्स. आपको सिर्फ 1 से 2 दिन तक लग सकते हैं और ठीक हो जाता है उसके बाद.
बिल्कुल फर्स्ट क्लास. एक क्वेश्चन डॉक्टर कोरापाली जो अभी हम कंबाइंड आंसर करेंगे. क्वेश्चन आ रहा है कि अगर हमें कोविड वैक्सीन लग गया है तो क्या मास्क फिर भी पहनना चाहिए? आई हैव कोरापाली आंसर दैट इन हिंदी उर्दू फर्स्ट. उर्दू में बताएं क्या मास्क फिर भी पहनना है अगर वैक्सीन लगा है कि नहीं, एंड देन डॉक्टर वहीद इन जस्ट सम अप इन इंग्लिश लेटर ऑन. कोरापाली,
आपको तो मास्क पहनना पड़ेगा क्योंकि मैंने बताया अभी इंग्लिश में भी कि वैक्सीन लेने से आपको ये इनविजिबल शील्ड नहीं आ जाती सामने. आपको वैक्सीन लेने से बॉडी में सोल्जर्स पर तैयार हो जाते हैं, लड़ने के लिए तैयार रहते हैं. आपको फिर भी कोरोना वैक्सीन आ सकती है, अंदर आ सकती है आपकी बॉडी में. जब अंदर आ जाएगी आपकी पहले से बना हुआ ये सोल्जर्स फाइट करेंगे. ये सोल्जर्स कहाँ से आए? आप वैक्सीन लिए इसलिए सोल्जर्स पैदा हुए बॉडी में, वो सोल्जर्स आपकी वायरस को फाइट करेंगे. लेकिन ये है कि मास्क ना पहनने से आपको आ सकती है वायरस. सो जस्ट बिकॉज आपने वैक्सीन लिया है इसकी मतलब नहीं है कि आपको मास्क ना पहने. मास्क पहनना पड़ेगा. अगर नहीं पहने तो आपको फिर आ सकती है और आप उसको फैला भी सकते हैं किसी और को, आपकी फैमिली में बच्चों को, बुढ़ों को, सबको फैला सकते हैं. सो जब तक ये खत्म नहीं हो जाती आपको तो कंटिन्यूसली होशियार रहना है कि आप हमेशा मास्क पहने.
मास्क फिर भी पहनना है. अगर आपको वैक्सीन लग भी जाता है मास्क इसलिए भी पहनना है कि ये नहीं है कि आपको कोविड हो नहीं सकता. कोविड फिर भी हो सकता है. इसका फायदा ये है वैक्सीन का कि कोविड सीवियर नहीं होगा। तो आप ज़हन में सब रखें, वैक्सीन लेने के बाद मास्क भी पहनना है और वैक्सीन लेने के बाद आपने एहतियात उसी तरह से करनी है। जस्ट सम डॉक्टर वहीद saying we'll just skip that. There's one other little एक दो सवाल आ रहा है चाइनीज वैक्सीन के बारे में और रशियन वैक्सीन के बारे में। डॉक्टर चौधरी, कि क्या ये उसी तरह से इफेक्टिव है? ये चाइनीज वैक्सीन और रशियन वैक्सीन काफी ज्यादा इंडिया में और पाकिस्तान में अवेलेबल है, और अगर आपको कोई इंफॉर्मेशन है इसके बारे में आपने जो ऑडियंस है उनको बताना चाहें।
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't looked at their data, so I'm sorry, I cannot comment on that.
वहीद और कोटापाली और डॉक्टर साइमा किसे ने, and then
The same thing for me. I never got data, but I don't know the details of it.
okay.
मैं सिर्फ इतना कह सकती हूँ कि people I know, colleagues or friends, they have taken Chinese vaccine. It's available, I think, in UAE, in that area. So obviously we don't know, community का भी हमें नहीं मालूम कि किस वैक्सीन की कितना अरसा रहेगी, लेकिन जिन्होंने चाइनीज वैक्सीन ली है, जो मेरे जानने वालों में है, कोई साइड इफेक्ट या कुछ नहीं है, नहीं, या उसकी इफेक्टिवनेस में क्या डिफरेंस है, ये टाइम विल टेल।
परफेक्ट। एक सवाल वो किसी ने रिक्वेस्ट की है कि जो इनफर्टिलिटी है, कि बच्चा ना पैदा होना या किसी भी तरह से बॉडी पे अफेक्ट होना वैक्सीन से, क्या कोई इफेक्ट कर सकता है बॉडी पे? ये सवाल दोबारा उर्दू में एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए कहा है डॉक्टर चौधरी।
जी, मैं इसके बारे में कहूँगा कि इंशाल्लाह इनफर्टिलिटी का कोई कंसर्न नहीं है, क्योंकि वैक्सीन बहुत क्लीन है, इसके साइड इफेक्ट प्रोफाइल जो है वो बहुत क्लीन है और ये इनफर्टिलिटी क्रिएट नहीं करती है। एक्चुअली कोविड वैक्सीन जो उन्होंने स्टडी किया इसको, जिन लोगों को कोविड डिजीज हो जाती है, आउट ऑफ देम 50% को ये प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं डिजीज के बाद में, मतलब जो सेक्सुअल काइंड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स, दे कैन एक्सपीरियंस अ लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स आफ्टर द वैक्सीन, आफ्टर द एक्चुअली इन्फेक्शन। इसलिए वैक्सीन और जरूरी है लगाना, क्योंकि उससे आप बच सकते हैं इन सब चीजों से। फ्यूचर कॉम्प्लिकेशंस जो है ना, एक चीज मैं और एक्सप्लेन करना चाहता हूँ कि जो कोविड जो कोरोना वायरस जो है, आपकी जो इन्फेक्शन है, ये सिर्फ आपको लंग्स को अफेक्ट नहीं करती, बल्कि आपके सारे बॉडी में ऑर्गन्स को अफेक्ट करती है। और जिन लोगों को भी ये कोरोना वायरस हुआ है, उनकी जो है पर्सनैलिटी भी चेंज हो जाती है और उनके जो इफेक्ट्स आफ्टरवर्ड्स हो सकते हैं।
फरूख भाई का क्वेश्चन है, फरूख भाई ने अनम्यूट किया। फरूख भाई, अगर आपका कोई क्वेश्चन है तो बताएं प्लीज, आप ऑनलाइन हैं।
बड़ी मेहरबानी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। ये फाइजर के मुतालिक क्वेश्चन है कि पहले डोज और सेकंड डोज के मुतालिक ये क्लिनिकल डेटा और क्लिनिकल रिकमेंडेशन जो फाइजर की लीफलेट में है वो है 3 वीक्स, और गवर्नमेंट पॉलिटिक्स ये है कि इनके पास इतनी वैक्सीन ज्यादा नहीं है कि वो दे सकें सबको। वो कहते हैं कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों को दें, तो ये 3 महीने एक्सटेंड करें। ये क्वेश्चन पहले पूछ चुके हैं लोग, लेकिन फिर भी आपकी क्या राय है? 3 महीने के गैप से कुछ मतलब चांसेस प्रोटेक्शन के कम होंगे या नहीं?
बड़ा अच्छा सवाल है, थैंक यू फरूख भाई। डॉक्टर वहीद, क्वेश्चन इज, यू गॉट द क्वेश्चन, आपने आपको यू गॉट द क्वेश्चन?
Yeah, good. I think the question really is if there's a delay of 3 months, is that going to have an adverse impact?
वहीद भाई उर्दू में अगर कोशिश करके जवाब।
मैं यहाँ में सवाल ये था कि अगर 3 मंथ्स का पीरियड हो तो फिर ये तो मसला होगा इन टर्म्स ऑफ जो रिकवरी है। तो इसमें जो है ना, जो यूके की गवर्नमेंट उन्होंने काफी इसके बारे में देखा है, वो ये कह रही है कि अभी जो ज्यादा जो मसला ये है कि लॉजिस्टिक्स का मसला है कि सप्लाई कम है। इसके लिए इस वजह से जो वो कह रहे हैं कि सबसे ज्यादा जो है जो पहली अगर वैक्सीन सबको लग जाए ना, ये बेहतर है। तो जो एविडेंस ये है कि वो 21 डेज के होना चाहिए, जो फाइजर कह रहे हैं। ये कंपनी वाले ये कह रहे हैं 21 डेज में होना चाहिए, लेकिन जो गवर्नमेंट कह रही है कि इसके जो है 3 मंथ्स में करें कि सबसे ज्यादा अगर सबको लग जाए तो सब जो है वो प्रोटेक्टेड हो जाएंगे। एविडेंस वो जो है ना वो फिर हम यही उसमें ये है कि 21 डेज का एविडेंस है, 12 वीक्स का एविडेंस नहीं है, so हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि बेहतर है या कम है।
एक क्वेश्चन हमजा ने किया है कि मेरे पास चॉइस है फाइजर और मॉडर्ना के बारे में वैक्सीन लेने के, मैं कौन सी पसंद करूं? मेरे पास दोनों चॉइसेस हैं। डॉक्टर कोरापाली,
जो मिले वो ले लो।
डॉक्टर क्या एक कोई और ये वर्सेस कोई, सो दोनों की एफिकेसी 96% है अभी तक जो स्ट्रेन
बिल्कुल बराबर है, यहाँ पे मिल नहीं रहा है लोगों को। अगर आप लकी हो मिल रहा है तो लेने खड़े होकर भाग के ले, जो मिला वो ले लो।
बिल्कुल ठीक। और इंग्लैंड में डॉक्टर वहीद,
या इंग्लैंड में अभी जो है ना ये कि फाइजर भी मिल नहीं रहा, तो हम ऑक्सफोर्ड है ना AstraZeneca, तो वो भी अच्छा है, तो जो मिल रहा है वो ले लें, बस यही कहना हम कह रहे हैं। सेम मैसेज है।
एक क्वेश्चन एक और आया है कि मेरा बेटा है 18 इयर्स का और मुझे फिक्र है उसको वैक्सीन देते पे एक पे रिकमेंडेशन हुई है कि आप ले सकती हैं वैक्सीन, आप इसके बारे में क्या रिकमेंडेशन करेंगे? डॉक्टर साइमा फिक्र कर रही है कि उनका बेटा है 18 है, 18 से ज्यादा जो उम्र है वो वैक्सीन अलाउड है, अम्मी परेशान है कि मैं दूं कि ना दूं।
18 से ज्यादा पे अलाउड है वैक्सीन, क्योंकि यूके में हमारे कोहोर्ट्स बने हुए हैं और जो एडल्ट्स हैं जो कम रिस्क है उनका लेट उनमें उनकी टर्न आएगी, तो 18 से ऊपर की आपकी एज जो है एडल्ट्स को अलाउड है।
ठीक है। डॉक्टर चौधरी सेम सवाल।
अब प्रॉब्लम ये होता है कि जब कोविड हो गया है, अब उसमें रिस्क होता है कि इट कैन बिकम, ये बहुत ज्यादा सीवियर हो सकता है और उसमें स्ट्रोक के चांसेस, तो स्ट्रोक, फालज और हार्ट अटैक और हार्ट के कंडक्शन डिफेक्ट्स, जो हार्ट के जो मसल नहीं सही से काम करता है या उसमें ब्लॉकेजेस आने लग जाती हैं, ये कॉम्प्लिकेशंस बहुत सारी देखने में आ रही हैं। तो बेस्ट थिंग यही है कि उसमें बेशक आई अंडरस्टैंड तो एज 18 है और 18 एज में रिस्क कम तो है, लेकिन पुराना अगर हो जाए, क्योंकि ये एज आती है जिसमें बच्चे ज्यादा केयर ले सकते हैं, ज्यादा केयर नहीं करते हैं, तो उस के बेस्ट अगर आपको मिल सकती है, जैसे अभी महेश भाई ने भी कहा कि आपको अगर वैक्सीन दो से भी मिलती है तो ले लें और उसके दोनों डोसेस ले लें और उसके बाद फिर आप देखते हो आप किस करना चाहिए।
महेश, डॉक्टर महेश क्वेश्चन, मेरा बेटा 11 इयर्स का है, क्या उसको वैक्सीन लेनी चाहिए? और ये कह रहे हैं साथ के मेरे अम्मी अब्बू को हार्ट का प्रॉब्लम है, क्या उनको लेना चाहिए? क्या कोई उनको क्या करना चाहिए? बेटा 11 है और अम्मी अब्बू भी हैं और उनके बारे में फिक्रमंद है।
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Can you repeat that thing again? You said
मेरा बेटा is 11, क्या उसको वैक्सीन लेना चाहिए? यूएस फर्स्ट और फिर हम डॉक्टर वहीद से सिमिलर क्वेश्चन करेंगे यूके में और दूसरी जगह पे।
11 साल,
जी
11 साल का बच्चा को अगर कोई दे रहा है तो ले लो। आप यहाँ तो दे ही नहीं रहे ना, पहले डॉक्टर्स को दे रहे हैं, नर्सेस को दे रहे हैं, उसके बाद बड़े लोग बुजुर्गों को दे रहे हैं, उसके बाद हाई रिस्क लोगों को दे रहे हैं। बच्चों को
अभी इंडिकेटेड नहीं है सीडीसी गाइडलाइन में कि 18 इयर्स के सब 18 इयर्स और 16 इयर्स से भी इंडिकेटेड नहीं है, अनलेस
मिल नहीं रहा, दे नहीं रहे, सवाल पैदा ही नहीं होता कि तो
मिलेगा
I
नहीं।
think I heard this different question that उसका अब्बू को हार्ट,
और अब्बू को जी, उनके वालिद साहब को हार्ट प्रॉब्लम है, क्या उनको वैक्सीन लेना चाहिए?
उसको लेना चाहिए, यस जरूर, उसको पहले मिलना चाहिए,
लेना भी चाहिए पहले और मिलना भी पहले चाहिए। डॉक्टर वहीद
जी अभी जो है ना हम यहाँ यूके में नहीं दे रहे, अंडर 16 का नहीं दे रहे, अभी जो है ना हमारे जो 4 जो प्रायोरिटी ग्रुप्स हैं वो हैं जो ओवर 80s हैं, जो केयर होम्स में हैं, जो फ्रंट लाइन हेल्थ और सोशल केयर वर्कर्स हैं, या जो है ओवर 75 हैं या ओवर 70 with जो है ना वो प्रॉब्लम है, डायबिटीज है, ये है वगैरह, और जो हम ये कह रहे हैं कि क्लिनिकली एक्सट्रीमली वल्नरेबल, उसके बाद जो है ना फिर दूसरा फिर ग्रुप आ जाएगा जो ओवर 65 हैं और उसके बाद फिर दूसरी ग्रुप्स आ जाएंगे।
ठीक है,
तो इंशाल्लाह इवेंचुअली मेरे ख्याल में पूरी जो पॉपुलेशन को जो है ना वो दे देंगे। आई थिंक दिस इज द गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी मेरे हम सबको दे देंगे, लेकिन अभी जो ज़्यादा जो मजदूर हैं उनको भी दे देंगे।
Perfect. Altaf Hussain जी, Altaf Hussain भाई आपका कोई क्वेश्चन अगर आप पूछना चाहें।
I think so, Mr. Bhanas. I have one question that is like a basic question. The question is that why is the disease being called coronavirus by COVID-19?
Can you
I
repeat?
can answer that. It's very easy.
Mahesh,
उसका क्लास है, कोरोना वायरस उसमें सेवरल कोरोना, सब इन्फ्लुएंजा भी कोरोना है, लेकिन कोरोना वायरस डिस्कवर्ड इन 2019, that's why it's called COVID-19, कोरोना VI virus, D discovered 2019, simple answer.
Okay, so let me get to next question is from let's see, Rahila. One second, I'm just trying to get there. Rahila Abdullah, please ask your question. One second, let me unmute you one more time. You're online, please go ahead, ask your question. Rahila?
Yeah, assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Hi everyone. I don't know if this question will relate to whom. I have two questions. First, vaccine is feasible for people who are with a condition of hydronephrosis grade 3 or 4. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is my first question.
Okay.
Second question, once a person is COVID positive, is it like they can take vaccine only after 6 months, or there is any condition related to this, or is it just a consequence we are hearing?
Okay. Do you mind if we answer the question in Urdu?
One thing, I reside in Dubai, and we have two sort of vaccine available, Pfizer and Sinopharm. And since Pfizer, to get the appointment is is a lot of problem, getting it. So mostly preferred with the Sinopharm.
Okay, Sinopharm it is. Okay, I'm going to ask the first question. In Urdu, I'm going to have it answered. Dr. Chaudhary, hydronephrosis hydronephrosis or hydrocephalus, one or the other. क्या इसके बारे में contraindication है? ये पहला question है, Dr. Chaudhary.
So इसकी वजह से कि hydronephrosis है, chronic disease है, ये priority है. इस patient को vaccine as a priority मिलनी चाहिए, क्योंकि ये high risk patient है. इसलिए ये पहली बात है कि definitely उनको कौन सी भी vaccine मिल सकती है, कौन से ले लें.
अच्छा ठीक है, दूसरा क्वेश्चन है जी.
If there is no condition, I mean that there's going to be any side effect or any issue caused to the person who is having hydronephrosis grade 3 or 4, considering the kidney is completely dilated and it's not functioning, it will.
Yeah, so I think that it's so we can contraindication ये कह सकते हैं कि कोई side effects नहीं हो सकते, लेकिन स्टडीज के अंदर जो हमने पढ़ा है उसमें यही नजर आता है कि कोई इसमें इंशाल्लाह प्रॉब्लम नहीं होनी चाहिए, और ये असल में हाई रिस्क पेशेंट है. अगर हाई रिस्क है तो इनके ज्यादा लाइवलीहुड है कोविड डिजीज होने के, और उसके साथ में कॉम्प्लिकेशंस का रिस्क भी ज्यादा है, इसलिए इनको मिलनी चाहिए, वैक्सीन लगनी चाहिए.
डॉक्टर कोरोपाली, 6 months के बाद वैक्सीनेशन कब लेनी चाहिए? कोविड हुआ था, कितनी देर के बाद वैक्सीन लेनी चाहिए?
जब मिले तब ले लें. So simple as that.
हाँ, जब मिले.
There is no time limit. There is nothing like that. ये पूरा अफवाह है, ये बकवास है. जब मिले तब ले लो. मैंने करेगा जो मिल जाए तो ले लो.
Dr. Wahid, UK recommendation.
Sorry doctor, am I clear about it कि मतलब अगर पॉजिटिव हो उसके मतलब जब मिले तब ले लो, मींस जैसे रिजल्ट नेगेटिव आए तो फौरन ले लो? There is nothing like this कि 6 months तक वेट देना है.
So सबसे पहले ये है कि डिफरेंट गाइडलाइंस हैं. यूएस की जो गाइडलाइन था वो अवॉइड करता था कि आप फर्स्ट 3 months में ना लें, पर जैसे डॉक्टर कोरापाली कह रहे हैं, अगर आप एंटीबॉडीज एक दफा माउंट हो गई हैं, अगर आपको चॉइस मिल रही है और वैक्सीनेशन मिल रही है, तो आपको वैक्सीनेशन ले लेना चाहिए. वैक्सीनेशन आपको फर्दर प्रिवेंट करेगी, जो स्टडी के मुताबिक 1 साल के लिए तक का कुछ रफ डेटा है हमारे पास कि ये प्रोटेक्ट करेगा. सो डॉक्टर कोरापाली ये कहना चाह रहे थे कि इवन दो डिफरेंट जगह पे डिफरेंट गाइडलाइंस है, गाइडलाइंस बनाई गई हैं आपकी जगह के मुताबिक. कोविड हुआ, आप हमारे पास आईसीयू में डॉक्टर्स थे, उन्होंने फर्स्ट विद इन अ मंथ बाद में ले ली क्योंकि वो दोबारा कोविड का डेटा अभी दोबारा हो जाए या डिफरेंट स्ट्रेन जैसे आ रहे हैं वो हो जाए तो वो काफी सीवियर हो सकता है. सो यूएस रिकमेंडेशन
The main reasons is different strain. That's the
बिल्कुल ठीक, बिल्कुल ठीक.
तो आपको जो strain हुआ है, हो सकता है 1 हफ्ते में आपको दूसरा strain आ जाए.
जी
ये है कि ये जो कोविड वैक्सीन है अलग अलग स्ट्रेन को ऐसे रखते हुए दे द वैक्सीन, सो आपको हैव टू टेक इट, सो आपको दूसरा स्ट्रेन आता है.
बिल्कुल.
जब मिले तब मिले.
डॉक्टर वहीद उर्दू से
So, ये जो सवाल ये है कि यूके का जो गाइडेंस है इसमें ये है कि 28 days वेट करें. So हम उसके बाद फिर हम देते हैं. इसके ये है कि अगर आप कोविड पॉजिटिव हैं, you can't come and just say the next day मुझे वैक्सीन दें, because you are a potential person who could be spreading the virus. So there has to be a gap. So in the same way हम जब यह कहते हैं कि अगर आपको कोविड हो गया तो आप घर में बैठे हैं, 1 वीक में बैठे हैं या 2 वीक्स के लिए बैठे हैं. So in the same way हम एक गैप होना चाहिए, 28 days गैप होना चाहिए in the UK. US आप कह रहे हैं कि 3 months है, तो आप बेहतर ये आप जो है जो एमरेट्स हैं उनकी भी गाइडेंस होगी, एक पब्लिक हेल्थ की बॉडी होती है, तो उनसे आप बात करें, वेबसाइट में चेक करें तो वो आपको बता देंगे कितनी जो है गैप होना चाहिए. but मेरे हाल में गैप होना चाहिए at least maybe 2 weeks 3 weeks 4 weeks मेरे हाल में गैप होना चाहिए. दूसरा जो सवाल था आपका जो हाइड्रोकोसिस का है, ये हम सबको दे रहे हैं. जिस लास्ट वीक में सब रीनल वार्ड्स में गए थे और वहाँ सब के जो पेशेंट्स हैं ना उनको हमने दिया था क्योंकि वो क्लिनिकली एक्सट्रीमली वल्नरेबल हैं. So the benefit outweighs any risk.
बिल्कुल. So 5 more minutes फिर हम करेंगे. थैंक यू एवरीवन. अभी लाइन पे हैं और क्वेश्चंस अभी भी आ रहे हैं. अयान भाई आप माइक पे हैं, क्वेश्चन अगर आप पूछना चाहें.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम. एक्चुअली मैं उनकी मदर हूँ.
जी अयान से भी.
हाँ, एक्चुअली मुझे आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछना था कि अगर माय सन इज टेकिंग एलर्जी शॉट्स फॉर डिफरेंट हिस्टामिन्स तो उनके लिए क्या सजेशन है? दे शुड टेक.
सन की आपकी उम्र क्या है? आपके सन की उम्र क्या है? 17 साल की है. डॉक्टर चौधरी अयान की अम्मी कह रही है कि अयान को या किसी को एलर्जीज है उनके बेटे को और वो मेडिकेशन लेना चाहती है. वैक्सीन क्या करें इफ इट इज इंडिकेटेड और क्या लेनी चाहिए कि नहीं? प्लीज चौधरी.
इसमें सिर्फ जो एलर्जीज का कंसर्न आता है कोविड वैक्सीन में, उसमें अगर किसी को एनाफिलैक्सिस हुआ है, किसी को बहुत ज्यादा वीजिंग हो गई है, उन्होंने स्टॉप ब्रीथिंग या उनको बहुत ज्यादा हाइव्स हो गए हैं, या किसी ने एपिपेन यूज किया है, उनको एपिपेन यूज करना पड़ा है क्योंकि उनकी ब्रीदिंग उनकी रुक गई है, ब्रीथ और दे कैन नॉट ब्रीथ, तो वो सांस नहीं ले सकते. तो इस सिचुएशन में आई विल बी केयरफुल. अगर उनको रेगुलर एलर्जीज हैं, फूड एलर्जीज हैं, पेट एलर्जी है, सीजनल एलर्जी है, एनवायरमेंटल एलर्जी, डजंट मैटर. Any allergies otherwise is fine to take it. आप वैसे दे सकते हैं उसमें कोई. अगर आपको अब severe reaction नहीं हुआ previous allergy से, या और contraindication क्या है कि अगर आपने कोविड की कोई वैक्सीन अगर ली है और आपको रिएक्शन हो गया बैड एनाफिलैक्टिक हुआ तो दूसरी ना लें. या फिर ये है कि हमारे रूमेटोलॉजी में हम रिडक्शन एक मेडिसिन यूज करते हैं. अगर रिडक्शन मेडिसिन दी है तो वो 20 साल को किल कर देती है, तो उसके बाद फिर आपको right away the vaccine you have to wait for like 5-6 months to recover फिर आते हैं. तो in general जो है अगर एलर्जीज हैं और माइनर केस की हैं तो उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है देने के लिए.
डॉक्टर चौधरी एक क्वेश्चन उनको उर्दू में आंसर करने के लिए कि मुझे कोरोना वायरस हुआ, मैं क्योर हो गई बगैर किसी मेडिकेशन के, तो फिर वैक्सीन का क्या पॉइंट है जब मेरी बॉडी में ऑलरेडी एंटीबॉडीज बने हुए हैं और मैं कैसे, मुझे क्या जरूरत है फाइट करने की जबकि मेरी बॉडी में ऑलरेडी एंटीबॉडीज हैं? प्लीज मुझे समझाएं कि मैं कोविड से ऑलरेडी एक दफा क्योर हो चुकी हूँ, क्यों मुझे वैक्सीन लेनी है दोबारा से? कोविड
ये है कि इन्फेक्शन के बाद हमें नहीं पता पहली बात कि ये जो एंटीबॉडीज बनी है ये कितना अर्सा आपकी बॉडी में रहेंगी, वो 2 हफ्ते की भी रह सकती हैं, 4 हफ्ते की भी रह सकती हैं, और जो एंटीबॉडी टेस्ट करते हैं हम वो पता नहीं पता न्यूट्रलाइजिंग एंटीबॉडीज कितनी इफेक्टिव हैं। तो पहली बात ये है कि वो एंटीबॉडी टेस्ट भी जो करते हैं वो भी इतना रिलायबल नहीं है, फॉल्स पॉजिटिव फॉल्स नेगेटिव रिजल्ट्स आते हैं इन्फेक्शन के बाद। तो उसमें आपको फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हमें पता नहीं है कि वो एंटीबॉडीज कितना अर्सा लास्ट करेंगी। जैसे डॉक्टर वहीद ने कहा कि वे अगर आपको किसी को हो गया है कोविड इन्फेक्शन हुई है, वेट फॉर 28 डेज, आप 1 महीना इंतजार करें, उसके बाद आप अपनी वैक्सीन ले लें। डॉक्टर महेश ने कहा कि आप फॉर्म से ले लें। पॉइंट है कि आपको वैक्सीन लेनी चाहिए, इसलिए आप ही नहीं समझे कि एक दफा हो गया है तो अब आपको दोबारा नहीं हो सकता। और दूसरी बात यह है कि आप ये नहीं पता कि आपकी इम्यूनिटी कब तक बिल्ड अप रहेगी। दूसरी बात यह कि बहुत सारे लोग एसिम्प्टोमेटिक कैरियर्स हैं, जो हमारे जो लोग वैक्सीन की ले लेते हैं उनको अपना मास्क पहनना है, उसके बाद भी प्रोटेक्ट करना है अपने फैमिली मेंबर्स को, दूसरे लोगों को, क्योंकि 30 to 45% are asymptomatic carriers। तो asymptomatic carriers को स्प्रेड करने से रोकने का यही तरीका है कि सब लोग मास्क पहने रिगार्डलेस उनको वैक्सीन लगे।
परफेक्ट। डॉक्टर नियाज, मैं कोविड दौर में बहुत ज्यादा आइसोलेशन में हूँ और मुझे अब समझ नहीं आ रही कि मैं अपनी जिंदगी को कैसे जंप स्टार्ट करूँ, और जो जितना मैं आइसोलेशन में इससे मैं काफी ज्यादा डिप्रेस भी हूँ और मैं डर गया हूँ अब लोगों से मिलने के लिए। मुझे कुछ एडवाइस करें मैं क्या करूँ, और मुझे ये भी एडवाइस करें कि मुझे अब कितना खतरा है। तो लोगों को काफी ज्यादा कोविड के बाद होने के बाद भी खतरे हो रहे हैं और लोग अपने आप को क्वारंटीन कर रहे हैं, सो मेंटली वो उसकी वजह से उनको मेंटली डिप्रेस भी हैं। प्लीज एडवाइस करें कि क्या किया जाए, इसको किस तरह साइकियाट्रिकली क्या रिकमेंडेशन आप देंगे प्लीज।
ये डिफरेंट कंट्रीज के लिए डिफरेंट हो जाएगा, क्योंकि यूके में हम लॉकडाउन में हैं तो हम लोगों को एडवाइस कर रहे हैं कि वो आइसोलेशन में रहें जिनको जरूरत है और अननेसेसरी ना मिलें गैर जरूरी दूसरों से, और जिनको सीरियस इलनेसेस हैं वो अपने आप को क्वारंटीन करें। इसलिए अगर वो यूके में है तो आइसोलेशन है जिसको हम लोनलीनेस को डील करने के लिए है कि आप न्यू वेज देखें कि वर्चुअल आजकल मीडिया और जूम मीटिंग्स और एक दूसरे से कनेक्ट करें, अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ कनेक्ट करें थ्रू वर्चुअल मीडियाज को यूज करके ऑनलाइन, और न्यू एक्टिविटीज एक्सप्लोर करें, क्रिएट न्यू वेज। फिजिकल एक्टिविटी जो यहाँ पे जीपी भी बैठे हैं, अंडरटेकिंग फिजिकल एक्टिविटी और कीपिंग एक रूटीन बनाएं जो कि आप पहले बाहर जाते थे और अब नहीं जा रहे। मैं यूके के उसमें बता रही हूँ क्योंकि हम यहाँ लॉकडाउन में हैं, हमारा ये 3rd लॉकडाउन चल रहा है, बहुत सीरियस है, इसलिए वैक्सीन किस कदर जरूरी है। डॉक्टर आमिर ने ये सेशन अरेंज किया है। और अगर दूसरी सेंस में करें कि दूसरे कंट्रीज हैं, मैं ब्रीफ करूंगी इसे क्योंकि वक्त खत्म हो रहा है। अगर आप दूसरे मुल्क में जा रहे हैं और आपको खौफ हो गया है कि आपको लग ना जाए अभी तक वहां पर आपका लॉकडाउन नहीं चल रहा, तो इसके लिए आप ऑनलाइन हेल्प मौजूद है, अपने जीपी को या डॉक्टर से पूछें। आप ग्रेजुअली अपने आप को बाहर निकलें, डिसेंसिटाइज करें, लोगों से मिलें, अपने दोस्तों से मिलें और अपनी फैमिली के साथ मिलें। मेरा ख्याल है
इतना करें। बहुत अच्छे, दैट्स वेरी गुड सजेशन, क्योंकि लोग काफी
जैसे मैं कह रही हूं
बिल्कुल
स्टेप बाय स्टेप डिसेंसिटाइजेशन के लंबे स्टेप्स हैं
जी,
अपने आप को ग्रेजुअली आप एक्सपोज करें।
मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहता हूँ अमेरिकन मुस्लिम टुडे के बिहाफ पे उन्होंने ये ऑर्गेनाइज किया। वो चाह रहे हैं कि इसके बाद नेक्स्ट मंथ एक और सेशन रीअरेंज करेंगे, उसके बारे में आपको फिर मालूमात देंगे। जो और आप पैनलिस्ट का मैं शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ, डॉक्टर कौरपाली, डॉक्टर वहीद, डॉक्टर चौधरी और डॉक्टर नियाज। आपके जितने पार्टिसिपेंट्स थे जूम पे, फेसबुक पे, इंस्टाग्राम पे, बहुत ज्यादा ऑडियंस, काफी ज्यादा लोगों ने अप्रिशिएट कर रहे हैं और थैंक यू कर रहे हैं आप लोगों के कि आपने टाइम निकाला और उनके सवालों के जवाब दिए। वेरी फैबुलस, थैंक यू वेरी मच। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपके आने का। बाकी लोगों के लिए भी कि अमेरिकन मुस्लिम टुडे का इवेंट है, दूसरा फेथ के बारे में, इंटरफेथ, जो कि लाइव फेसबुक, इंस्टाग्राम, यूट्यूब पे होगा। इंटरफेथ के बारे में
February 21st.
3 wise women के नाम से, और उसके प्लीज डू अटेंड है, उसका डेट अमेरिकन मुस्लिम टुडे वेबसाइट और फेसबुक पे आपको मिलेगी। जिन्होंने नहीं ज्वाइन किया वो फेसबुक वगैरह पे और यूट्यूब ज्वाइन करें ताकि आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती रहे। एक इवेंट फिर रीऑर्गेनाइज करने की रिक्वेस्ट आ रही है यहाँ पे कि प्लीज इसको दोबारा करें, और पार्टिसिपेंट आएंगे, और रिक्वेस्ट ज्यादा यही आ रही है कि प्लीज इसको दोबारा से उर्दू और कुछ इंग्लिश में हम रीऑर्गेनाइज करके फिर करेंगे। सब बहुत ज्यादा शुक्रिया। एक दफा अपनी तरफ से भी शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ, अमेरिकन मुस्लिम डे का भी शुक्रिया कि जिन्होंने ऑर्गेनाइज किया। बड़ा मालूमाती सेशन रहा। उम्मीद है कि आप लोगों के सवालों के जवाब दिए गए हैं। Panelists, thank you very much again, Dr. Waheed Chaudhry, Saima Niaz, and Mahesh. I know you were busy, but you came on board and helped the community. Really appreciate that. सब लोगों के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। अपना ख्याल रखिएगा। लास्ट में मैं ये मैसेज देना चाहता हूँ कि खुदा जाके वैक्सीन लें, इसके बारे में रिस्क ना लें, अपने आप को भी बचाएं, अपने इर्द गिर्द जो लोग हैं उनका भी ध्यान रखें, उनको भी बचाएं। मैं तो हर बंदे से, हाँ वो गोरा है, काला है, किसी भी रेस नस्ल का, अपने आप को वैक्सीन करें। ये आप जाने बचाएंगे अपनी भी और दूसरे लोगों की। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। थैंक यू वेरी मच एवरीवन। Hope to see you soon again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.